I don't think Deborah needs really any introduction, but I'm going to give you a short introduction over Souls. Just one quote today from Matthew. He came up here and said he's angry. I agree with him. That said, Souls came about because several of us got together to write a letter of protest almost to support Rachel and everything about the possible closure of the university. We gave ourselves an acronym.
Sorry, Steve, we can't hear you.
Support.
Hello.
Heckling.
All right. So we gave ourselves the acronym of SOLS, supporters of leather, education and science. The letter, I don't know whether it helped or not, but we did our bit. Later, we sent out another letter into industry, and many of you received that and signed it and supported it, but still didn't really help. Then Christine suggested that we should meet together physically and digitally through Teams, all possible people who are interested, to come together and exchange ideas, concerns, and possible answers. That meeting took place at SATRA. Again, thank you for SATRA for providing those facilities. We have had since then another meeting, and that was at De Montfort University, who are kind of an interested possible partner. We've got another meeting planned on June the 16th. There have been other meetings in between, subcommittees and everything. I'm going to hand over to Deborah now to take you through that.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I think just to give you an overview of where this started, when we heard that the closure was definite, 11th of December last year, I think quite rightly we were all a little bit outraged, upset, angry, whatever adjective you want to use. And it just so happened that that same week we had some meetings going on within the industry already. And at that time, we all strongly felt that we had to do something to preserve and protect the educational integrity for leather moving forward. And I think it was raised at one of those meetings that week that if we don't have places like ICLT, who's going to answer the questions? And I think today, every presentation that we've had has just proved the value of education. And if we lose that education, especially at the higher level, where are we going to be in 5 or 10 years' time? Who's going to be the next person talking about a new tannage technology or methodology if we haven't got the research going on and the education at that higher level? So, yes, Chris galvanized everybody. We decided that we would try to get everybody into one room to think about what we had as a possibility. Talking with industry, everybody recognizes ICLT as the institute globally for robust, independent, high quality education of leather technology and science. And we don't have another alternative. We have many other institutions around the world, but none with the same gravitas that ICLT has. So we had our first meeting on the 24th of January, and we looked at what possibilities there were. We looked at the challenge before us, and at that time, De Montfort, who were in the room, were very proactively supportive of helping us to find a solution. So we started discussing with them what they could offer and whether or not it was something that industry would want to support. Where we've got to through those deliberations is that De Montfort are more than happy to provide a mechanism, but industry would have to provide the material and the resource to enable it to happen. It's not something that De Montfort can fund, and it's not something that they can give a bespoke faculty to. And they also made it very clear at that time that it could not be a lift and shift. We couldn't take exactly what we'd been doing at ICLT and just move it to a new site. And the feeling was that's not working anymore. That's why we're in the situation we're in with ICLT. I would argue that because I don't think it's ICLT necessarily that failed, and I certainly don't think it's the teaching that failed. I think it's the business side that failed, and that's what's failed us as an industry, that education is no longer just about education, it's about business. And each of the universities is a business unit in its own right. So now we're looking at profit over education, and that's where the failing is. That's my personal opinion. From the original objective of our discussions, what De Montfort is offering, although great, does not fulfill the original objective, which was protecting that high level integrity of the staff at ICLT. Now we're already feeling the effects of that. We've already lost Andrew from the faculty. He's moved on to another area. If we lose this resource, how are we going to recover it? If they move out to other industries, we've lost it. So it's really important that we do bear that in mind with all our deliberations for the future. So we've looked at other possibilities as well. We've looked at whether or not we can utilize existing organizations that we have in the industry to build something from them collaboratively, and something that would work with this kind of wheel and spoke effect. If we can get something together, we know De Montfort are more than willing to give us the accreditation. They will still be that educational body sitting behind it to validate those certifications and qualifications. But we still need to create something. We know we've got a wealth of really knowledgeable expertise out there, and we have good materials. How we could bring those materials together into something that would form a cohesive training establishment remains to be seen. And we also know that we do already have other institutions out there in Italy, in India, in China. We do have other higher educational institutes out there that are delivering training to a certain degree. Where do we go from here? Does industry really want it? You know, we started with the first meeting back in January, and it was a pretty full house. What did we have, over 80 people, Christine?
We had 60, we had about 30 in the room, 30 online.
Yeah, yeah. The more...
We've got over 100 something people organising
on the distribution, yeah. But over the intervening period, those numbers have got less and less. And actually the people that are actively still participating has got less and less, even though everybody's on that wider group. And we find ourselves in a similar situation to that we've seen before, time and time again in the industry. It's the same few people that try to galvanize things and make things happen. But you can't do something like this on the scale that we need it with a few volunteers. It has to be bigger than that. It has to be more structured than that. And we have to know that industry really wants it. Will they support it financially? We know that there are extenuating circumstances around the drop in numbers at ICLT. So how can we reverse that? How can we get people interested in good education again for leather? People talk about this all the time. I'm just going to say, how do we make it sexy? It's that word again. You know, we need the bums on seats, but it also needs to be affordable. And that's another problem with our university system generally now, again, that for anybody coming from outside of the UK to train here, it's so expensive. And talking with companies in Italy just over the last 12 months, they've told me firsthand, I wanted to send my son there, but I can't afford the cost anymore. You know, and these are second, third generation tanning families or chemical companies where they studied at Northampton. They understand the value of Northampton, but now they can't continue it because it's unaffordable for them. So we have this great mix of circumstances that have conspired to get us to the point we're at. The big question now is, what do we do about it? Are we going to let it just die? We can focus on lower level, grassroots, practical education, but they're not going to be our thought leaders of the future. They're not going to be you guys that have all presented today or are working with companies around the world driving the improvement that we need for the industry to maintain it as an industry of the future. One of the more practical things that we're talking about is creating a mentorship program, perhaps through SLTC. We'll be talking about that in the AGM after this session a little bit more. But we do need more than that. We've got to get those young people interested first. We've got to get them on a career path so that we've got somebody to mentor. So we've got a big challenge, I think, from start to finish. And our question to you, I'll probably let Steve just wrap us up, but our question to you is that what you want? Because all of your companies, all of your organizations have to want it for it to work. Otherwise, us few volunteers that are trying to keep sparking this conversation are just wasting our time, because we don't have millions of pounds sitting in the bank that we can do it. We need industry to support us if we're going to do it. Over to you, Steve.
Yeah, and what do we want? What does industry want? And that was a bit of a conundrum because when we asked, the responses were all over the place. And it seems that there is a need for level 2 to level 4 education, not just in the UK. That is sort of modules, certificates leading to a diploma, perhaps. So you have a basic soaking liming module, or a basic tanning module, or a basic dyeing module. And this is what industry desperately needs, because they don't have the time themselves to train their drum operators. So that was one issue that confused us a little bit, but we understood, yes, that's necessary, as we do need degree students finally. So we need quite a lot, really, and we need a facility. De Montfort University are not going to provide a tannery. Ongoing, that could possibly happen, but not right now. Employing staff from ICLT, they've said we can't discuss it. Presumably, we've had a hint that when they do need to employ staff, they'll look at whoever's available at the time. A bit of good news is that Jack, I don't know if he's here.
He's not here.
He's not here.
No,
Billy
Tannery this weekend.
Yeah. He has offered to extend his new tannery that he's going to be building with some support from, I believe, from Leather Sellers. He's in discussions with De Montfort to make space available for students to come in with lecturers to conduct practical trials. And that's fairly near De Montfort. So that's one good thing. The second thing is, I've spoken with the CEO of Trumpler and Jeanot. He's not here, but he's spoken with TfL. We have facilities fairly globally where we can take students in with a lecturer, maybe small groups up to 6 people, to run 2-week courses tailored to what they need. We've done it before, and both companies have agreed to offer that. So that's from China, Spain, Germany, through to Brazil and Mexico. So that's another thing that can be provided. The other thing is on the material for education. I introduced Clive Jackson Moss to the group, and he actively took a role and prepared a presentation which several of us reviewed his material, his course material, and it's deemed to be very suitable to a certain level. It's deemed to be very suitable. Scottish Leather Group guys had a look at it as well with us. I've looked at it more closely, and I would say it's very suitable. That's ready to go. The future is online education with perhaps a week or 2 in a classroom and in a tannery. We could have in the future certified tanneries, such as Scottish Leather Group, offering facilities for training. So a lecturer or a mentor would go there and work with their people. So there are possibilities. It's not all bad news, but it has to be put together somehow. And that's what we're talking about. We're just concerned, volunteers, and we've done a lot already. We need industry to step up.
Yeah,
that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. One other point, though, when we're talking about accredited facilities that are prepared to open their doors, that won't work for research, because you can't do research for one chemical company in another chemical company's facility, or in a tannery that's working with another chemical company. Yeah. So when it comes to independence of research, of which we do still need, that won't work.
No.
So we have to find another solution for that. And it could be that we have to have a purpose-built lab, small test drums, something set up somewhere to enable that kind of work to take place. But so, we don't have a solution, I think. We have lots of things that are kind of in the mixing pot, how we bring it all together into something that we can run with.
How many
Needs more
presentations today? University of Northampton has a credit on those presentations.
Exactly.
Research.
All of the research.
Yeah. Complement as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, what will happen, if anything does happen, hopefully it will happen stepwise. It won't all happen together on one go. We're going to have to start again small and build it up.
And I think that what we'd be interested after today is to maybe send out commitment letters for industry to sign up to say, okay, if you get this up and running, we will commit to supporting it in whatever way. It might be a financial support, it might be premises support, it might be personnel resource support, but we need to know that we have industry commitment to back this.
The other thing that came out, I forgot to mention, was that industry, we're talking not just in the UK, this is an international meeting we had, or several of them, they say there's a need for all the education on offer to be kind of accredited and standardized.
The global curriculum.
Global curriculum.
Yeah, that was what we
So that needs to be managed. And that's something really to criticize ourselves, SLTC and our ULTCS, is something that we should have done in the past.
But you can't do that with volunteers. And that was the other thing that we talked about the other night. You know, if we're going to do this, we need full-time people who are employed to make this happen. You can't do it with a group of volunteers that all have their own full-time jobs to do, you know, and that's not fair. That's not fair of industry to expect that. So we have to have a pot to enable us to have full-time people working on this for the good of the industry. And I think that's an important point as well to recognise.
Yeah, and Deborah's got a bit of a concept on this. It needs to be like a 3-year program to get it up and running.
Yeah.
So it would require funding for 1, 2 people for 3 years.
At least 2 people for 3 years. First year, development, second year, implementation, third year, review, and now can we make it self-sustaining? Have we got an audience for it? If we can't make it happen after 3 years, then maybe, you know, it's time to call it a day. What that means for us as an industry, though, I don't know. I don't like to think about that scenario. I'd rather be positive and think if we can galvanise everybody in the right way moving forward, we can find a new system that will work internationally, because having that international curriculum could be really vital for us for the future. Should we throw open to questions?